Okay, so let's continue with the truth study. We're now in chapter 6, session number 3. And so before I get into this, why 2 reasons why people don't tell the truth, let's look at if you put little tick marks in the middle line of the previous exercise in session 2. And so here's how we do it. There's 20 questions totally. And so add up all the check marks that you put in those middle columns when you sometimes don't tell the truth, okay? And so what we do for just, a little bit of more self-awareness and to kind of up our game a little bit is, since there's 20 questions, let's just say you clicked or checked 5 and said, yeah, out of the 25 times, that would be when I would maybe not tell the truth. And so 5 out of 20, well, that means about a quarter of the time, or 25% of the time, you were likely not to tell the truth. Let's say it's 10 times out of the 20. Maybe you put 10 check marks out of the 20. Well, that would be 50% of the time you might likely not tell the truth. And of course, it goes up. If you do 15, then it's 75% of the time. And if you do all 20, well, then that's 100% of the time. And believe it or not, I've actually had people that had 100% of the time they were making exceptions to the rule. And so let's address what exceptions to the rule actually means. So just by virtue of saying an exception to the rule, it means a rare occurrence. And so a tsunami is a rare occurrence. Yellowstone National Park exploding, the super volcano, that would be a rare occurrence. And so it doesn't happen very often. It's rare. But if you find that you're actually, the exception to the rule is actually your rule, then it's no longer a rare occurrence, but it's a lifestyle. And so, you can crunch the numbers for yourself. This just gives you a little tiny indicator. Wow, maybe I'm not spending as much time on the truth as I thought I was. I value the truth, especially when people tell me the truth, but clearly maybe I am not valuing the truth in how I communicate to other people. And that's a big deal. Okay, so we want people to tell us the truth, but do we tell them the truth as often as we demand they tell us the truth? Okay, so I wanted to touch on that. It's a very interesting thing to do to give us kind of a good idea of what we're really doing in terms of the truth. Okay, now, what are 2 reasons why we would lie or not tell the truth? Do you know? What do you think they are? Just think about it. Why would we not tell the truth? Well, there's 2 major reasons why we lie or we don't tell the truth. The first is to protect. So you're going to write that down. And the second is to gain. Now, when we go offline with this, I want you to spend some time developing those 2 reasons a little bit more in your free time. So I want you to write down examples of when you didn't tell the truth because you thought that you were protecting someone or you were protecting yourself, because that's really important for you to be aware of this. And then also on number 2, to gain. When did you not tell the truth, or when did you lie? Whether it was a white lie or a big lie, it makes no difference, because there was something that you could gain from it, or somebody else could gain from it. Maybe you cheated on your resume. Maybe you actually made your job much bigger than it really was, or your personal responsibilities. And think about, why did I do it? Did I do it because I just didn't want people to think less of me? There's a lot of reasons why we do it, but the 2 primary motivators are to protect and to gain. And that's really important. And so this is why we want to talk about a little bit more on your next page about what about the truth. Okay, and so the truth, as I mentioned earlier, is actually really powerful. And the problem is we see lying as a means to protect ourselves, or lying as a means to gain. Okay, because we see, okay, that's powerful, we can do that, that's what we're going to do. But see, we have it all backwards. Actually, the truth is designed to protect you, and the truth is designed to help you gain. Because if you're lying and there's deception, that's temporary. Now, what model is that in? Okay, let's do a little quiz. What model? It's the benefits model, because the benefits model is a temporary model. And so the lying, if you're trying to like be deceitful so that you can protect or gain someone, that's all temporary. At some point you will be found out. I mean, it's just the law of the land. It's just the way nature works. It will eventually show up, because there's no strength in a lie. However, the truth is designed to protect and designed to help you gain. And as a result of that, that's permanent. So what model is that in? Of course, that's in the investment model. And that's the model you want to be in, because as you're going towards purpose and developing and building into your life, this is what you want to have in your life. That's definitely what you want in your corner, is the truth. And so let's look at the truth, and you can write these things down, and you can again develop a little bit more about what we're going to talk about in your spare time as you're reflecting on what you're learning in these chapters and in these sessions. And so the first one is full disclosure. You have to have full disclosure when you're buying a car. At least you're supposed to. How many of you have bought a car and they said, oh, it's a great car, it runs perfectly, and you were able to make it home, and then you realize they did some type of a patch and it's leaking oil everywhere, and it's not what you thought it was, and you don't feel like you have any recourse at all with that. And so you have to provide full disclosure, especially in business transactions. What about informed consent? You have to be completely informed before you're entering into a science project, before if you're going to be one of the people that it's going to try makeup or something. You have to be fully informed on what could go wrong. If you're having a surgical procedure, you have to be told exactly what could happen when you go under general anesthesia, what could happen with your incision. There could be infections, things could go wrong. And so you have to have complete and total informed consent, because it protects everybody. And so the law looks at truth as being a protective agent for you. You have to be able to make a choice. Now, see, this is what's so wonderful about it. When you're talking with people and they're lying to you, they're manipulating you. And when they're manipulating you because they're wanting to gain something, they're denying you and depriving you the ability and the freedom and the power to choose. And we already talked about that in the first couple of chapters about what's control and what is choice. And so when you're being lied to, you're being denied the power and the freedom to make a choice. And that really doesn't sit with me very well, because I really value choice and free will. And so that's really important. So I want you to think about this when you have lied to somebody else because you're protecting or wanting to gain. So you have the whole idea of truth and deception twisted. It's not correct in your mind. And so you're denying that person the ability to make an informed decision based upon the facts, okay? So that they can come to their own conclusion. And so when you're manipulating somebody and doing that's just, it feels bad when it happens to you. And think about the times when people have lied to you and you made a bad decision because they lied to you. They didn't give you all the information. Well, see, that's what happens when we're not in the truth. So if our demand is that people treat us in a trustworthy manner and an honest manner, then we need to be able to do the same thing for them, okay? So keep that in mind, all right? Now, let's look at truth in terms of natural law. So truth kind of is like the sun. So let's look at this list. Truth, okay, it matures us. So we know when we're told the truth, we grow up. Now, through the whole course that you've been going through here, we're telling you the truth, because I want you to reach self-actualization or purpose, which is the same word. I want you to get into that 1% club. And so I'm going to tell you the truth, because I know in order to achieve that level, you have to have maturity. And so that means we need to discuss things like relationships in our life, and we got to take that mask off and be authentic. We have to talk about how do we view trauma or drama in our life. We have to look at it through the zone of learning and say, I need to get smarter. I need to relook at things. We're not minimizing people's pain. We're trying to empower you to pull yourself out of those depressive moments and the hopelessness that you felt and feeling overwhelmed. And so I'm giving you the tools so that you can do that. I want you to be mature. It illuminates our way in this world. It gives us direction. It is absolute and perfect. It always reveals our weakness. And so when we just did this evaluation on how I view the truth, some of you may have gone through this and said, wow, I don't tell the truth as often as I thought I did. Okay, so it's going to reveal some weaknesses in our life. But it also heals us because we're like, wow, I can make some adjustments. I can make it a real priority in my life to pay attention to what I'm saying to people and to make sure that I'm telling them the truth, even if it doesn't feel very good to me. Now, that doesn't mean you can go up to somebody and say, hey, I just want to let you know I'm going to tell you the truth. You're actually fat. Okay, that there are ways to actually speak the truth, and that's for another time that I would like to talk to you about you don't want to cut people's ears off because you think that you're operating in the truth, because you have to really temper it with love and with the investment model mindset. So if I go up to somebody and I go up to them and say, hey, you're fat, they probably aren't going to listen to me and anything else I say, even if I have something really helpful for them. But if I go up to them and we have a discussion and they say, hey, I'm having weight issues, I could say, maybe I can help you with that. I know you really want to make some, changes in your life. And so there's the way that we actually deliver the truth. So keep that in mind. It heals us. And if your version of the truth damages people, you're not operating in the truth. You're just being mean, okay? So just keep that in mind. And truth protects us. So it's powerful. It's not going to change. Truth is what it is. And if you are speaking the truth and living a life that's truthful, then when, the dust hits the fan, if you will, you are going to be rock solid. So truth is always about freedom. It teaches us a better way and it empowers us. And I like to contrast this with the sun because it's very similar. So when you go outside now in Colorado, we have sunlight over 300 days a year. So we get the benefit of sunlight. And in some areas of the world, they may not have sun that often, but everybody has seen the sun at least once, okay? And so the sun, all living organisms need the sun to grow. The sun illuminates our path. Excuse me. The sun always rises in the east and sets in the west. The sun is perfect in its distance from the earth, and just like the truth is absolute and perfect, just like truth reveals weakness, sunlight reveals imperfections, which is really kind of funny because when you see some of these movie stars, it's kind of fun to watch what kind of lighting they use in order to take pictures of them. So some of them are so like, soft lighting, so much like because the soft lighting is hiding a multitude of wrinkled skin. And so in this case, the sunlight will also reveal imperfections, okay? Truth heals. The sun is beneficial for all living organisms. And truth protects. The sun protects the earth from freezing. And so whenever you go outside and you see the sun, I want you to think about how we can operate more often in the truth, because it's to our advantage and it will empower us. It's about freedom and it's going to show us a better way. Now, here's a fun little exercise that you can do. So this is about Play-Doh versus wax. And so if you've ever played with Play-Doh, I mean, most of us, played with Play-Doh or clay, and it's really soft and smooshy, but wax is really hard. And so I want you to think about the consistency of both of these. So what's the texture of Play-Doh? What's the texture of wax? And so now let's pretend on a real hot summer day in Colorado or wherever you live, you decide you're going to go out and you're going to put some Play-Doh on the sidewalk, and then right next to it, you're going to put some wax on the sidewalk, okay? Now, what's going to happen over a period of time in that hot sun to both the Play-Doh and the wax? So I want you to think about it. And think about it in terms of our attitudes, okay? The way we think, or even our heart. What's in our heart with this? So with that in mind, apply this following ancient proverb. Okay, the same sun, which is truth, that melts wax, hardens clay. So think about that for just a minute. What do you think happens? Because the sun will harden that clay, it'll get really hard. And then the wax will melt. What do you think that means? The same sun that melts wax hardens clay. Well, what it means is this. Truth will always reveal what your attitude is about right and wrong. and your willingness to change the way you think. In other words, it's the condition of your heart. And truth will always reveal and show what your real thoughts are. In other words, your willingness to be teachable. And so some people who you think are really soft and, oh my gosh, this person is just tender-hearted and, oh, I could just tell this person anything all day long. And then when you give them the truth about something, and it may be somebody even in my class right now, you may be listening to this and you might be getting really angry and say, you know what, I reject what you're saying. I'm not going to accept anything you're saying. Well, then what you're doing is you're showing me that without the truth, you're just a nice person, nice guy, nice gal. Hey, everything's great. But when the truth comes, it hardens you, just like the Play-Doh. In the presence of the sun, in the presence of truth, that Play-Doh got hard. Versus somebody else that maybe you thought they are hard as nails. This person, they're just, they're aggravating, and I just don't know if I could have a discussion with this person. And yet when they're in the same class that you're in, and they're listening to the same information you're getting, this person who at one point seemed to be very hard, in the presence of truth, because we're investing in you and it's the good thing for you and it's said in a way that you can receive it, they melt like wax and they say, wow, you know what, this makes sense to me, man. All these things all these dots are suddenly being connected in my life. And I totally understand what's happening. I need to make some 1/8 inch adjustments. I need to really bring some change into my life because I can't be this way anymore. I need to be the person that I was really born to be. And I'm going to take on board all the things that I'm learning right now because I want to be that authentic person. And so I want you to spend some time asking yourself how you're feeling in the presence of truth. And in the, and is it hardening you or is it softening you? And then I want you to take some time over this next page in your book, and I want you to list some examples when someone told you the truth and it made you mad. And it could be like you're telling a daughter or a son, you might say, hey, listen, I know you really like this guy or this girl, but I got to tell you, they're bad news, and here's why. This person isn't going to be good for you. And then your daughter or son gets really mad at you and says, hey, you don't know this person like I do. I see things in them that you don't see, and they get really mad. That's an example of somebody getting hard-hearted and rejecting the truth and saying, I'm going to do it my way, okay? All right, so then the next one underneath that, list some examples when someone spoke the truth to you and it changed you in a positive way. It might be something that you've learned here in Core Purpose. You might say, wow, I'm going to take this on board. I need to make some small adjustments here. And I want to be very malleable when it comes to the truth. I want to be very open to it. I don't want to reject it, even if it confronts some things that I have held onto my entire life, or maybe my whole family has held onto my entire life. I need to just dispense with those because those are not going to be useful for me. And then after you spend some time going through this and spend some time reflecting on this before you even go into the next session, because it's really important that you galvanize the idea and the concept of what truth really is. Because if you don't, you're not going to ever be able to move forward with your quality of life. You will never have the healthy relationships that you wanted to have. And you're never, ever going to get into purpose, the 1%. And so this is really quite foundational in terms of how you're going to move forward with the authentic self, okay? And so when you're ready, you can go on to the next session. But in the meantime, really spend some time reviewing this and making it part of your life.